Hello, how are we doing today? And so, on this beautiful Sunday, of course. And so, today, I thank you for joining me. Today, of course, is the day that I have set for to have some talk in regards to autism and social well-being. Of course, social well-being has to do with how well we get along with others in the communities, but not only in the communities and around the world, but also how well we get along with when we have to do or we have to deal with other humans, especially in the family, with our friends. And that has to do with how well we understand knowledge. Yes. And so we know that autism spectrum disorder is something that causes the individual to miss out in understanding. And so today I will be speaking a little bit in regards to what I have found out in relation to identity disorder in autism, and also, of course, I have to talk about the person that I know with autism and how he's doing in regards to this, because he is putting into practice consciousness. There are a lot of things that have to come into place and that he must practice in order for him to manage the communication skills that have many factors in it. So my name is Judith Mendoza. I am a behavior consultant and educator. I dedicate this time to the knowledge, education, and understanding of autism. And so I volunteer my time, and today I have new information in regards to how autism is affecting Frank. And he has a profile on Facebook under Frank De Jesus, but he also has a profile on Twitter, and that is at 10 Second Songs. And so the reason why I mention this is because I want people to see how he is being affected in the behavior that he is demonstrating. I know that autism is very difficult to understand because we cannot see it outside of the individual, and of course that is what makes it more difficult. We can't see. In other conditions, mental conditions, you can see that the person expresses a certain type of behavior, and you can say, well, you know, this person is not well. And when it's something physical, outside the body, because physical will also include in the brain, but physical meaning on the outside of the body, right? Like if you get a cut on your hand, anyone will notice it and understand it. But when it comes to autism, it is something that is inside the brain, right? So autism is a complex neurological nervous system disorder. it does affect the nervous system. The nervous system stems from the brain, right? And it's throughout our whole body. So they're affected. The whole person is affected. And so it is the same with any other neurological disorder. So when it comes to autism, it also affects the optical nerves, the optical connection, the eyes to the brain, the processing of the information then, of course, is affected. And so today, right, because I am collecting my own data in regards to Frank. He has autism. We didn't know that he had autism, and I said we. When I say we, I mean me, myself, and I, but also his family. His family noticed that there was something with him that was not all right, right? We all believe that certain things that he did were, the word we used were weird. And so, and we didn't know why. Now I know why. It is because basically he's putting different identity patterns in order to form speech. And basically he impersonates this. He's been impersonating these. And now he has great understanding because he has been taking care of himself. Sleeping matters for everyone, but especially when we have disorders that affect us from birth, meaning we have deficiencies in our body that make it worse. And so Frank has been taking care of himself. He has been sleeping better, and he has also been exercising, which is something that he did when he was younger because he had to. He was in school, so he had to do these things. Also, his dad was living with him, so he had his dad that he could literally copy, and literally imagining that he becomes dad. Not that he is like dad, but he becomes dad. But he also becomes mom. And so he also becomes whoever else he wants to become in order for him to utter the speech. And for those who are verbal, this is the same thing that happens. At least this is what I have noticed. And so if the situation is the same for you, if you have autism, or for your child, if he has autism or she has autism, then the situation is this, as I have found out just now. And I share the information because the more we know about this, the more we can do about the situation, the more we can find ways to communicate, and we can become more patient with those who have autism. We can recognize also the condition of autism, especially in adults, in older adults who are being diagnosed in their 70s, in their 80s, and now are coming into a group of those who have autism spectrum disorder and having a better understanding about themselves, but also family members, so that they can all as a family be able to have better relations. Because see, this is the thing about autism. The person, especially the one who's verbal, who wants to speak, and verbalize, that person will do so, but meaning or with the help of having identity patterns of others. And so, well, what that means is that the son or daughter will copy mom and dad in order to function. And so that will become a dissociative identity disorder, because the person in reality is not evolving as self as it should be. The person is actually thinking in his or her mind, I have to become this person in order for me to utter the speech, and the speech that will be uttered will be basically what the identity pattern is saying. As the person finds that there are limitations to the speech because this identity pattern is only speaking about these certain matters, and the person who has autism wants to speak about other matters, then what that person does is that they find other identity patterns that are speaking about the matters that they want to speak about in order for that person to speak. And so basically the disorder and the identity will be that the person's self, basically that person eliminates self, and it is as if that person does not exist. And so I wanted to continue because I have been talking about the importance of I, for the reason that I have found out that basically the most important issue in autism is that the identity disorder. But since it is something that is in the mind, from the mind, and some individuals are better than others at imitating, you can hardly see that the person is imitating someone else. And basically this is what has been happening, and what has seemed to be that some are at a higher level, and there are some that are at a lower level in autism. But that's not the situation, because in any situation where you have the person who has autism, but that person is surrounded by these individuals, and he can actually take the identity pattern of those individuals in that group, it could be the family, you take them out, and that person becomes unable to speak, because they have to also visualize the identity that they copying. They are copying or they are replicating. And so it seems that the person is losing abilities, but it's not the situation. The situation is that the person has not learned to become self, and it does not happen automatically as it happens in those who have autism, or as it happens in those who do not have autism, right? So I just want to make sure I just said something that is not okay. So those children who do not have autism automatically have an understanding of self at a very early age. A child can start having awareness of self, but also of others, when the child does not have autism. So for that child to recognize self and being called by the name, and this is the reason why they are not answering too, it has to do with how they're capturing also the information. It's only one way that they are capturing it, and it is not because they want to do it. It's because the brain developed in that way, apparently having a misconnection from the brain to the optical system. So you wanting that person to look at you in the eyes will not change the one way that they can actually take in information, which is in a literal way, flat, no spectrum, no, they can see the distance, they can measure the distance, the depth, the height. And those who seem to be doing this must know that there is something within themselves that is lacking, but that others have it, but they don't want you to know either. And that's the thing, because I have mentioned that if it was the case that the person is unable to speak, immediately what we will see is, what we will look for is sign language, something that the person can actually do the speaking. But for those who have autism, there is this thing of course, the stigma that the illness creates, and basically is in the brain formation, or how the brain formed at the time of conception. And when the person is born, then is when we see these things. But what have I found out then? Well, this is what I'm finding out, and what has been happening is that for Frank, the situation is that he cannot yet, I say yet because he has done a lot, even though it may seem not to be the case, it is. He has greater understanding now than he did before. It's just, of course, the obsessive compulsive disorder still there also. That's still there. And this condition also makes him not to pay attention to what he should be paying attention in order for him to accomplish his goals. So what I found out is that he believes, or the way that he says is in regards to his identity, right? Because right now we are working on the matter of developing an identity for himself. Each individual human has an identity, or should have an identity for self. It is the basis for everything that we do. We must believe we exist as self, not existing as someone else all the time. And basically this is what's happening with Frank. And so what he has also done is he does the different, for example, in regards to he does this with everything that he has. He follows the same pattern of identities. So for example, he has his profile. In his profile, you will see him behave in certain ways, and then he change, and then he goes back to it, and then he change, and then he go back to it. And this involves also that he goes back to, for example, he has a video that I have seen. From time to time I go and I check his at 10-second songs profile. basically there he has the long hair, curly hair, black hair. That's a wig, of course. And he portrays himself there. Sometimes he put a ring on his nose. By the way, that's a fake nose also. And he's trying to talk through these things. Of course, the only person that knows that is doing this is himself. But this is a behavior that I have seen in others also, with the using of different things that they may put in their body, using of wigs. And also there is the video where, or there is instances where he has his body, like he has a big body, dark skin, hair on the chest. All of that is, of course, fake. That is why he's next to the thing there that look like a man, that is I guess they use it to make dresses and stuff. A figure that he has made out of plastic in there, acrylic or whatever, I don't know. But he uses these different things that has to do with things that he has come up with also. So in the first place, he invented stories out of things that have happened, and of course his obsession is in regards to what happened between us. But he has made so many stories in regards to these things that they are not even about us anymore. They are about the things that he imagined in his mind and that he's doing. And so it's not about us. It's about what he is doing and what he's thinking, and the way that he is associating the things that he's doing, and also even the names. Because associate names to himself. For example, he's calling himself there Anthony Vincent. Of course, that is not his name, but he has the tendency of literally using someone else's identity. And of course, he pay people in order for them to change over the identity so that he can be whoever he wants to be. He thinks he's Jehovah God. I mean, he read that from the scriptures where Jehovah says, I am who I am, and I become whatever I need to be. Of course, Jehovah wasn't thinking about fraudulent actions, or becoming a liar, or pretending to be someone that he's not, or stealing someone's identity. You know, Frank studied the Bible with Jehovah's Witnesses for about 3 years or 4 years, but he wasn't really into. He was just imitating what others were doing, but he was really not understanding what the Bible says. And so, yes, this is something that he learned, but he's doing it in a way that is no more about what the Bible says. It's about what he wants to do. And this is a behavior also that I have noticed in others, which basically is the understanding of information. And so, yes, in the Bible, Jehovah says, my name is Jehovah, and my name means that I become whatever I need to become, whenever he needs to become whatever he needs to become, at the time he needs to become it, in order to provide whatever he needs to provide for his people. If it was salvation, then he will become whatever he needs to become in order to provide that, to take that action. It doesn't mean that Jehovah actually changed who he was and became someone else, as Frank has been doing. Of course, it wasn't that. And so, but these are some things that I have learned that Frank is doing. Now, of course, these things I have been explaining to him as I come into the understanding of why he's doing this repeating of things. Of course, Frank has even more understanding now in regards to these matters. He has been taking care of himself, his health, and sleeping better. His brain seems to be doing the connections, maybe forming new connections, and because he has a better understanding. He has a better understanding. He has a better understanding of what autism is, how autism has affected him, why the behaviors are affecting of others affect him. Also, his understanding that he has a certain way in which he learns for himself, and so that he have to take that into consideration, his limitations. And then also, now we are at that he's saying that there's no inventory. So he's seeking to be this person that he needs to be, or he should be, which he is already. He is already the person that he's been seeking to be. So he goes through all these identity patterns, and he demonstrated and he showed me these identity patterns that he wants to do things through. And because he have the means for it, he even hire people to actually also repeat these identity patterns that he usually repeats, which are basically, for the most part, mom and dad, which is what I had mentioned in regards to the video. There's a video where he's singing, he has a mask on, but the other person who's singing, who seems to be a woman, is him also. So he's portraying mom and dad. He's always doing that. He's always portraying mom and dad, principally. And so this is what he's doing. There are things that trigger. There are things that I say to him that triggers these actions in him. And so he goes and he shows the mom and dad situation, which is in him, which is the way what comes out. And so he wants to be who he is, who he's supposed to be, because he is already. Obviously, if Frank had not been born, there would not be any Frank. If I will not have been born, there will not be any Judith. Obviously, if my mother had no children at all, then we wouldn't exist in my family. So the same thing is with Frank. If his mom had not had him, he wouldn't exist. If his mom had not had any children, they wouldn't exist. Frank and his siblings. So he already exists. But he is having problem finding this person that I'm telling him about, that he should be, according to his legal documentation. So this is something to know, because those who have autism, their legal documents exist because they exist, obviously. But for Frank, of course, that is not the situation in his mind. The way that he has formed this thinking in his mind. And so, of course, this is something that we will continue to work on. And basically, the solution for this and the way of treatment is reasoning about the matter, reasoning about the information, reasoning about why things are and how things are, and explaining them in a simple way. Frank has had lots of understanding now. He can actually discern things and understand them. But of course, now when it comes to the matter that he has to make application of whatever he is learning, he's the only one who can make application of it. But this thing about what he says, that there's no inventory, of course there is. He exists. He's the one person that should be the person that exists as him, according to his legal documentation. And so that's what I wanted to bring out today, because autism is something that can affect the person's identity, especially the person, especially those who are verbal, can create, and it seems that they will create, a dissociative identity disorder with a depersonalization and derealization. It will affect the person's, then, the values of the person, the communication skills of the person. It will affect how the person thinks and behaves and what's important in that person's life. That person with autism will replicate exactly what they are seeing, meaning that the example of others are extremely important, not only for the person who has autism, but also for those around the person who has autism. Because, of course, if I have a toxic personality, then the person with autism is going to copy my toxicity, my toxic personality, and is going to reflect it on me. So what's going to happen with that is that, of course, life is going to be just more miserable for I, but also for the person who has autism. I have seen the situation, right? I have seen the situation where, especially in those who are in romantic relationships, because when you're in the family group, you kind of, have to put up with the person who has autism, because, and the person who has autism has to put up with you also. It have to be the person, we have to put up with one another because we are family, right? And even though there might be arguments and disagreements, we are still going to be family at the end. But for those who are in romantic relationships, it can be tough. It can be very difficult. But for the person who does not have autism, know that the person who has autism copies exactly what they are seeing from others, especially if they are verbal, and most likely if they are married and they are their own individual. That means that they are verbal, and most likely they have an identity disorder, and they are functioning because they are propelled by the identity of others. And so if the identity that they have as a base in order for them to function is somewhat problematic, conflicting, then that is exactly what they are going to reflect. Of course, not exactly as how the person does it, but they will put it in their own way, because at the end we are all individuals, individuals. And so that is the thing, of course, that at the moment Frank is understanding. And of course he's saying that there's no inventory, there's no person that he can think of that could be Frank. And so of course we will continue with the matter of reasoning, the matter of explaining to him in regards to understanding that the person exists as self, and the person, we have to attach ourselves to what we are learning, but also to our legal basis, because we are all legal individuals in self, of course, as humans. We are all legal entities. So I am a legal entity, and my legal entity is named Judith Mendoza. Under my legal entity, my legal existence, my existence is based on that. And I have just as how we document information, we document it and we put it in order, we file it away in different categories and in different names, under different names. Well, the same is with humans. The same thing. It doesn't, we are humans are the ones who have created these systems based on we are legal entities. And so that's what comes out from us. So each and every one of us is a legal entity. And so therefore, when we take on others' identity, it is a crime. Doesn't it make sense? Of course it makes sense, right? So this is something that, of course, Frank has to come to an understanding of being self, because he has been someone else and functioning under someone else for so long that he has convinced himself that he doesn't exist, as if it doesn't matter. And he does. He matters exactly as someone else's matter. And so, of course, as I mentioned, it is something that it has to do with reasoning with the person. And so far, I have, in regards to Frank taking his vitamins, he has been doing that. And I have mentioned the vitamins. Nutrition is very important in everyone's health, not just in someone who has autism or is in other any other neurological disorders affecting the brain, but also affecting us physically. Whatever affects us physically will affect the brain also. I mean, we're one in all. It isn't that if, okay, just my arms hurt. Well, everything affects us completely, the human. And so we have to make sure that we're sleeping well, that we are exercising, and that we are taking our vitamins. taking the B complex every day, taking the vitamin D3 every day, taking vitamin C every day, taking vitamin E every day, and especially when we start in the morning. So omega-3 in the morning time. Of course, some of these vitamins have to be done under the direction of your doctor, because if you're taking medicine, it may contraindicate with the medicine that you're taking, especially if you're hypertensive. And so what else? Magnesium at night. It is good that we have a good sleep at night. So magnesium at night, magnesium citrate or citrate, is fast acting. So if you want to fall asleep without any kind of medicine, we need magnesium in the body. It is not a cure. You're not curing anything. You're adding something to your body that your body needs. And it is as the car. You have a car, you know the car needs oil. It isn't that you're putting it extra for if in case or so that it runs better. Of course not. It needs all these fluids for it to function. And so the body is the same way. We need all these things, all this nutrition, these minerals, amino acids in our body, and hormones. The vitamin D3 is a hormone that is needed, and we need it in every cell of our body. We're made out of cells. And so we need all these things in order to have a better function. It is each and every one of our responsibility as adults and human beings. So, of course, it is also our responsibility to make sure that whatever we take, and if we're taking medicine, and it is under the direction already of a doctor, then that you also become responsible and take that into also the doctor and ask the doctor, I need this, I need that, what do you recommend? Right? Of course. But if you're not taking any medicine, then you can take this, and it will give you a better function overall. Right? So in regards to the autism, the person is born with autism. You don't get autism later on. Autism is caused at the time of conception, when the brain develops. The first thing to develop in the human body, among the things that develop, is the brain. So we have the brain, we have the heart, and whatever ingredients that are needed in order to construct the body, the physical body, to be constructed inside the womb while we're being formed. If it is missing, whatever we're lacking, whatever mom is lacking, or however dad is in regards to his health, it will affect the child that is being formed inside the womb. And so that is what we have. And in regards to, of course, the identity disorder, well, at the moment, I am very happy to say that Frank is understanding that there must be a someone, that there must be, that there is something wrong with him functioning under others. He's understanding, he's having awareness of self, and that is what starts to create and develop the identity of self. So I am very happy to say that. I am very happy to say that way, because it could be that, we think, well, there's something wrong. He's saying that there's no inventory and that there's no existence of him. Well, if he's saying that, it's because he is actually thinking that there should be, and seeing that there's something that he needs to do, and he is having better understanding. His brain is getting better and better, and of course it takes time. It takes time for the body to actually get to the point where we can feel good. It takes time. If you're very deficient from these vitamins, it can take up to a year for your body to find the balance that it needs in order to function well. But you will see it. You will not see it from one day to the other, even though you may feel good. You may feel good when you take that first group of vitamins the first day, but because you feel good, you also may think, well, or you may forget to take the vitamin. And then you find yourself in a situation where you feel sick and you don't even remember no more why. It is good that we have a good routine to follow, and especially if you have autism or if you have any other neurological disorder, it is especially then that we do it because we are more advanced in the disease process, and our cells are dying faster. Or if we have any kind of habits that could make the regeneration of our cells, the renewal of cells, the renewal of whatever we need. And so it is composed of whatever we eat, our nutrition. So having, as I mentioned, the vitamins that I mentioned, the complex B, the D3, which is a hormone, having the E, the C, and then also, of course, as I mentioned before, having potassium, having making sure that your levels of potassium are that's something that I don't mention sometimes because they have to do with the hypertension. But anyways, if you are taking medication, then you should see this in regards to if it does contraindicate, and so ask your doctor also in regards to it. And so that is what I had for today. And then next time I will continue, because this is based on the importance of I, and what I had studied was the communication skills that we should have, that we should know, that we should learn. And for those who have autism also, specifically for those who have autism, because I am doing autism awareness, and the awareness that I'm bringing is not that, just to let you know that there is autism out there and that there's people who have autism. I am actually telling you, explaining to you how autism is affecting the person that is close to me who have autism, the observations that I'm making, the data that I am getting out of it, and sharing that information so that you can compare my information, the data that exists also, and you can compare it. You can do your research, and you can see, well, what else can I do for my family member who has autism, right? And so that is the point. The point is to bring out knowledge. So with knowledge, if we know, then we compare, and then we can do something about it. And so I will continue later on later on in the month, next month, also in regards to communication, the communication factors, and how we can build in the communication, in learning how to use our voice. For example, having naturalness when we speak. So what is that, right? Or having modulation, our voice, how we use our voice, how we use modulation, pronunciation, enunciation, and how we control the volume of our voice, and why we use our volume, when we use our volume, right? So all these things, and all these things have to do with part of the communication that we can have with others. All right, so I thank you for joining me today. And next time I will be speaking, as I mentioned, in regards to the communication skills and how to develop. Thank you, and have a beautiful evening.